Haunted houses.
Despise, hate, never in my life, no.
Hate them. Haunted houses are terrifying. Are you kidding me?
Don't like haunted houses or roller coasters.
Hate it. Oh, I'm that screamer. Like, was that a little girl in there? No, that was a 35-year-old.
Haunted hay rides.
Hate.
Hate them, but I'll do it once a year.
Hate it. Why do I want to be scared all the time?
Haunted, hay rides, all the same. Not in.
Haunted corn mazes.
Hate it. Corn is gross.
I live alone. I'm a single woman. I hate all this stuff.
Did you hear the other two? I don't love haunted corn mazes.
Black cats.
I love. I have a lot of them.
Hate them, they're bad luck. Love it.
I love black cats. I have a black cat. His name is Jobin, and he's the bomb.
Jason from Friday the 13th.
Hate it. Like, hockey's a great game. Don't ruin it.
I don't love Jason from Friday the 13th.
Hate.
Heck no, hate.
Pennywise the clown from It.
Hate, hate, hate. Hate. I'm not into the scary stuff.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph, hate.
I hate clowns. I don't. If there's another question about clowns, I'm taking this microphone off.
Love hate for week 8 wide receivers. Who we got, Secret Squirrel?
First up, Demaryius Thomas. Only 2 catches for 9 yards last week, but he's going to see a fair amount of Terrence Mitchell this week. So is he a love or is he a hate?
Yeah, he's a love. Honestly, I have him as a top 5 play this week. Chiefs have allowed the most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, including a league-high 13 touchdowns. They've also allowed more receiving touchdowns to wide receivers in the last 4 weeks than any other team has all season. Emmanuel Sanders banged up or out, so I see DT getting a ton of targets, and you mentioned Terrence Mitchell. Players lined up against Mitchell this year have scored the most fantasy points. Shout out to Mike Clay. He's absolutely a love. Again, top 5 play for me. Who's next?
Next up, Will Fuller. The dude just catches touchdowns, but he has a tough matchup this week against the Seahawks secondary. Is he a love or is he a hate?
Yeah, unfortunately, he makes the hate list this week. 5 of his 8 catches have gone for touchdowns. He's tied for 4th in the NFL in receiving touchdowns, which is amazing. And yet he's 178th in targets. That is an unsustainable rate of the highest magnitude. Over 55% of Fuller's fantasy points this year have been on touchdowns. Why does that matter? Because if he's touchdown dependent, you don't want to face the Seahawks. Seattle has allowed just 3 receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. That's tied for 2nd fewest in the NFL. Where Fuller lines up, I think he'll see a decent amount of Richard Sherman in this one. Seahawks usually handle deep threats well as well. Yeah, unfortunately, he's merely just a risky wide receiver 3 for me this week, Secret Squirrel. He makes the hate list. Who's next?
Next up, ALSHON Jeffery. Only 2 for 37 last week, but a good matchup this week against a soft 49ers defense. Love or hate?
Yeah, ALSHON Jeffery is absolutely a love. Still seeing a ton of targets, right? He's 12th among wide receivers in targets so far in the NFL. And we know what the Eagles do when they pass, right? They score. They lead the NFL in passing touchdowns this season. 4 different wide receivers have had 100 receiving yards or more against the 49ers. That's tied for the most in the NFL, and it includes people like Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Deron Brown. Niners, in fact, have allowed a receiving touchdown to 6 of 7 opponents this season. I expect ALSHON Jeffery to get into the end zone and be a very good play against San Francisco on Sunday, a top 15 play for me this week. All right, Secret Squirrel, who's next?
Last one, T.Y. Hilton. Still no Andrew Luck and only 2 games over 10 points. But is this the week he gets back on track? Love or hate?
Yeah, unfortunately, T.Y. Hilton makes the hate list, even when he's getting a ton of targets. Think about this. Less than 9 fantasy points in 5 of 7 games this season. Colts, as a team, have 3 touchdown passes all year long in 7 games. That's fewest in the NFL. And, you think they'd be trying to get the ball to him a punch, but he's only being targeted 6.4 times per game. That is tied for 36th among wide receivers. Bengals, meanwhile, have been a top 5 fantasy defense against opposing wide receivers. They're the only team in the NFL to allow less than 50% completion percentage to opposing wide receivers. T.Y. Hilton is a risky wide receiver, bottom line 3 or 4 for me. So, unfortunately, he makes the hate list.